Still single? LOL. Those 3 words echoed across my parents' dining room before anyone could pretend they hadn't heard them. The room went completely silent. My mother froze with the serving spoon halfway over the mashed potatoes. My father stared at his plate like the wood grain had suddenly become fascinating. My aunt coughed into her napkin, and my cousin looked down at her phone, desperate to disappear. Then my sister laughed. Not a nervous laugh. Not an awkward laugh. The same smug little laugh she had 5 years ago when she walked away holding my husband's hand. She stood in the doorway with oversized sunglasses resting on her blonde hair, a designer handbag hanging from one shoulder, and a smile that made my stomach twist. "I was just kidding, Emma," she said. "Don't look so serious. 5 years. 5 years since she stole my husband. 5 years since she shattered my life. 5 years without seeing her face." And somehow, within 30 seconds of walking back into our family home, she had managed to remind me exactly who she was. I looked at her, really looked at her. Lily hadn't changed much. She was still beautiful in the effortless way people always talked about. Still perfectly dressed. Still carrying herself like every room belonged to her. But something was different. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. There were tiny cracks around the edges. At the time, I didn't know what they meant. I just knew that hearing her voice again felt like someone had reopened a wound I'd spent years trying to stitch together. "I'm actually doing just fine," I replied quietly. She shrugged. "If you say so." Then she walked past me as if she hadn't destroyed my marriage. As if we had simply lost touch. As if she hadn't become the reason I stopped believing family was forever. I wanted to leave. I really did. But my mother had begged me to come. "Please," she'd whispered on the phone. "Your father isn't getting any younger. I just want one dinner where both my daughters are under the same roof." One dinner. That was all she'd asked. I should have known nothing involving Lily was ever that simple. My name is Emma Carter. I'm 33 years old. 5 years ago, I lost my husband, my sister, and almost myself in the same week. For a long time, I thought what I wanted most was revenge. I imagined confrontations. I imagined exposing them. I imagined watching their perfect relationship fall apart. But somewhere along the way, revenge stopped feeling important. What I wanted most became something much quieter. Peace. To wake up without wondering why I wasn't enough. To stop comparing myself to the sister who always seemed to win. To believe that my future wasn't defined by my worst betrayal. Getting there had taken years. Therapy. Late-night crying sessions. Lonely birthdays. Learning to cook for one. Learning to laugh again. Learning that healing isn't a straight line. And now, sitting across from Lily for the first time in years, I realized healing could still be tested. The funny thing is, people always assume betrayals begin with one dramatic moment. A kiss, an affair, a confession. But ours started years before that. It started when we were children. Lily was only 2 years younger than me, but somehow she always became the center of every room. She won beauty pageants. I won spelling bees. Guess which trophies stayed displayed in the living room? Whenever relatives visited, they pinched Lily's cheeks. "She's going to break hearts someday." They'd smile politely at me. And Emma is such a good helper. I became responsible. She became unforgettable. If there was one cookie left, my mother would tell me to let Lily have it because she was still growing. When I made the honor roll, Dad nodded proudly. When Lily got a B after failing 2 tests, everyone celebrated because she'd worked so hard. Little things, tiny moments, each one felt harmless. Together, they built a message I carried for years. Lily mattered just a little more. I told myself I imagined it. Until high school. My first boyfriend dumped me after 3 months. 2 weeks later, he was dating Lily. She claimed she had nothing to do with it. He just liked me, as though attraction erased loyalty. Then it happened again in college. Not another boyfriend. A best friend. My roommate slowly drifted toward Lily until eventually I wasn't invited anywhere anymore. Again, Lily smiled innocently. "I can't help it if people like me." That sentence haunted me. When I met Ryan at 26, I honestly believed my life was finally changing. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't rich. He was kind. He listened. He remembered little details. He made coffee exactly the way I liked it every morning. For the first time, I felt chosen. Really chosen. We dated for 2 years before getting married in a small ceremony surrounded by family, including Lily. She hugged me tightly after the vows. "I'm so happy for you," she whispered. Looking back now, I wonder if she was already lying. Our marriage was wonderful at first. Sunday breakfasts, movie nights, long walks after work, talking about buying a house, planning for children, normal dreams, beautiful dreams. Every time Lily visited, Ryan seemed perfectly friendly. Nothing more. I never suspected anything. Why would I? She was my sister. He was my husband. The two people I trusted most. The betrayal didn't happen overnight. Or maybe it did. I'll never know. The first sign came almost 3 years into our marriage. Ryan started working late. Lily started canceling family events. Neither seemed strange by itself. Life gets busy. People grow older. Schedules change. Then one evening, I borrowed Ryan's tablet because my laptop battery had died. A message popped onto the screen. "I miss you already." No name. Just a heart emoji. My stomach dropped. Ryan walked into the room before I could read anything else. He grabbed the tablet faster than I'd ever seen him move. "Work stuff." His smile looked forced. I wanted to believe him. So I did. Because trusting someone is easier than imagining your entire life is about to collapse. 2 weeks later, everything changed. I came home early from work because my meeting had been canceled. Ryan's car wasn't in the driveway. Neither was mine. I walked inside. The house was strangely quiet. Then I heard laughter upstairs. A woman's laugh. Familiar. Impossible. I climbed the stairs one step at a time. My heart pounded. So hard I thought it might break my ribs. The bedroom door wasn't completely closed. There was just enough space to see inside. And through that tiny opening, I saw my husband, standing beside my sister, his hand resting gently against her face. Then he kissed her. My world ended without making a sound. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply stood there, unable to breathe, until Lily looked toward the doorway, and our eyes met. For one long, frozen second, nobody moved. Lily's smile disappeared. Ryan turned his head, following her gaze, and the color drained from his face the moment he saw me standing in the doorway. "Emma." My name barely escaped his lips before I stepped backward. I wasn't ready to hear excuses. I wasn't ready to hear lies. I wasn't even ready to hear the truth. I turned and walked downstairs as calmly as I could. But inside, it felt like every bone in my body had cracked at once. My legs shook so badly I had to grab the banister just to keep from falling. Behind me, I heard footsteps racing down the stairs. "Emma, please," Ryan shouted. I opened the front door. "Don't." That was the only word I managed to say. He stopped. Maybe it was the way I said it. Maybe he realized there weren't enough words in the English language to explain what I'd just seen. I drove aimlessly for nearly 2 hours. I don't remember the roads. I don't remember the traffic lights. I only remember gripping the steering wheel so tightly my fingers turned white. Every memory of our marriage replayed in my mind like broken glass. Every anniversary, every vacation, every "I love you." Had any of it been real? Or had I been living inside a story everyone else already knew was fake? Have you ever had a moment where everything you believed about your life changed in an instant? If you have, you know it's not just your heart that breaks. It's your sense of reality. That night, I parked outside a 24-hour diner. I ordered coffee I never drank. The waitress asked if I was okay. I smiled and lied. "I'm just tired." She nodded kindly. Looking back, I wish I'd told the truth. Sometimes strangers show more compassion than family ever will. Around midnight, my phone finally rang again. It was my mother. "Emma, sweetheart, where are you?" I almost laughed. "You should ask Lily." Silence. Then she sighed. "I know." 3 words. I know. Those words hurt almost as much as the affair itself. "What do you mean you know?" Another silence. Too long. Long enough to answer the question before she even spoke. "We found out a few weeks ago." My coffee cup slipped from my hand and shattered across the floor. The waitress rushed over, but I barely noticed. "You knew." I whispered. We hoped they would stop. You hoped? Your father wanted to tell you. But you didn't. My mother's voice cracked. We didn't want to destroy the family. I stared out the diner window. Destroy the family? The family had already been destroyed. They just hadn't told me. I hung up. I couldn't listen anymore. That night, I checked into a cheap motel. The wallpaper was peeling. The mattress sagged in the middle. The air conditioner made strange noises every few minutes. It was the worst room I'd ever slept in. And somehow it felt safer than my own home. The next morning, Ryan showed up. I don't know how he found me. Maybe he tracked my credit card. Maybe my parents told him. Maybe fate simply wasn't finished hurting me. He knocked softly. Emma, please open the door. I stayed silent. I made a mistake. A mistake. People forget anniversaries. People burn dinner. People buy the wrong birthday gift. Falling in love with your wife's sister isn't a mistake. It's a choice. He kept talking through the door. It wasn't supposed to happen. When did it start? I asked. He hesitated. That hesitation answered everything. A year. A whole year. 365 days of lies. A year of family dinners. A year of holidays. A year of pretending. I unlocked the door but didn't invite him inside. I have one question. He nodded. Did everyone know except me? His eyes filled with shame. My parents suspected. My parents knew. My best friend. No. Your friends. Some of them. I felt sick. How many people had looked at me with pity while I smiled, completely unaware? I handed him my wedding ring. I hope she was worth it. Then I closed the door. That was the last conversation we ever had, as husband and wife. The divorce happened quickly. Ryan didn't fight it. In fact, he seemed relieved, as if he'd already started building a new life. With Lily, the papers were signed less than 3 months later. Not once did my sister apologize. Instead, she sent me a text. I never planned this. We just fell in love. I deleted it, then blocked her number. Some people think closure comes from one perfect conversation. I've learned that's rarely true. Sometimes closure begins the moment you stop waiting for someone to become the person they should have been. The months that followed were the darkest of my life. Friends picked sides. Some quietly disappeared because they didn't want to be involved. Others admitted they'd noticed strange behavior but hadn't wanted to interfere. Every confession felt like another betrayal. One afternoon, I ran into an old neighbor at the grocery store. She smiled awkwardly. I heard about Ryan and Lily. I nodded. Then she said something I'll never forget. You know, everyone always compared you two. Compared. As if we were contestants instead of sisters. As if love was some prize only one of us could win. That night, I looked through old family photo albums. Every picture suddenly looked different. In birthday photos, Lily stood in the center. At Christmas, she opened the biggest presents. Even at my wedding, I noticed something I'd never paid attention to before. Ryan wasn't looking at me in one photo. He was looking at Lily. How had I missed it? Or maybe I hadn't wanted to see it. About 6 months after the divorce, I started therapy. Walking into that office felt like admitting defeat. Instead, it became the place where I slowly found myself again. My therapist asked one question that changed everything. Emma, what if this wasn't proof that you weren't enough? I frowned. Then what was it? It was proof they weren't who you believed they were. I sat there in silence. I'd spent months asking what was wrong with me. Not once had I asked what was wrong with them. Healing wasn't fast. Some mornings I couldn't get out of bed. Other days I laughed at something on television and immediately felt guilty for being happy. But little by little, life returned. I got promoted at work. I adopted a rescue dog named Daisy. I painted my apartment walls the bright blue Ryan always hated. I learned to enjoy my own company. For the first time in years, I wasn't surviving. I was living. Then, almost 2 years after everything fell apart, I received a message from an unfamiliar number. It contained only one sentence. Ryan and Lily aren't as happy as everyone thinks. No name. No explanation. Just that. I stared at the screen for several minutes before deleting it. Their problems weren't mine anymore. At least, that's what I told myself. I had no idea that message was only the beginning. 3 years later, My mother called and asked me to come to that family dinner. The same dinner where Lily walked in, smiled at me, and mocked me with, "Still single?" LOL. Back then, I assumed she was showing off. Now, as I watched her laughing a little too loudly at my father's jokes and checking her phone every few minutes, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. She wasn't confident. She was nervous. She kept glancing toward the front window as if she was expecting someone, or afraid someone might arrive. Then, right in the middle of dinner, there was a loud knock at the front door. My father frowned. "We're not expecting anyone." Neither was I. But the moment Lily heard that knock, the fork slipped from her hand. Her face turned completely white. What do you think made Lily panic the moment she heard that knock? Have you ever seen someone who looked confident on the outside, but was secretly terrified? Share your thoughts and tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. The sound of that knock seemed to suck every bit of air out of the room. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Even Daisy, who had curled up beside my chair after I arrived at my parents' house, lifted her head and let out a low whine. My father looked around the table. Did someone order something? No one answered. Lily wasn't looking at the front door. She was staring at her phone. Her hands were shaking so badly that she accidentally dropped it onto the hardwood floor. That wasn't like Lily. My sister never lost her composure. She was the kind of person who smiled through chaos, the kind of woman who could make everyone else believe she had the perfect life. But now, she looked terrified. The knock came again, louder this time. "I'll get it," my father said. "No." Lily's voice cracked through the room. Every head turned toward her. "I mean," she said quickly, forcing a laugh. "It could be someone selling something. I'll go." Before anyone could stop her, she hurried toward the front door. She only opened it a few inches. I couldn't hear what was being said, but I could see her face. Every second, she looked more frightened. Then she whispered something. Whoever was outside answered. A second later, Lily slammed the door shut. She leaned against it, breathing hard. My father frowned. Who was it? Wrong house. She didn't even look at him. It was nothing. Nothing? If it was nothing, why was she pale? Why were her eyes glossy with panic? She hurried back to the table and picked up her wineglass with trembling hands. For the first time in my life, I saw Lily looking exactly the way I had looked 5 years earlier. Scared, broken, unsure. A small part of me wanted to feel sorry for her. A much bigger part remembered standing outside my own bedroom door watching her kiss my husband. No, sympathy would have to wait. Dinner continued, but no one was really eating anymore. The conversation stumbled from one awkward topic to another. My mother asked about work. Dad complained about rising grocery prices. My aunt talked about her garden. Lily barely spoke. She kept checking the front window every few minutes. Eventually, my cousin Noah leaned toward me and whispered, "Something's definitely wrong." I noticed. "You didn't hear this from me." He lowered his voice even more. "But she's been acting strange all afternoon." "How strange?" "Like she's waiting for bad news." Before I could ask another question, Lily suddenly stood up. "I need some air." She walked into the backyard. Without thinking, I quietly followed. The evening air was cool. The backyard looked almost exactly the same as when we were kids. The old oak tree still stood in the corner. The wooden swing Dad built decades ago still creaked in the wind. So many memories lived here. Some beautiful, some painful. Lily stood near the fence with her back to me. "You don't have to hide," she said without turning around. I wasn't hiding. She laughed bitterly. "You always were the honest one." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she surprised me. "I'm sorry." I blinked. "What?" "I'm sorry." Those 2 words were 5 years late. They didn't erase anything, but hearing them still made my heart race. "You expect that to fix everything?" "No." "Do you expect me to forgive you?" "I don't know." I folded my arms. "You stole my husband." "I know." "You destroyed our family." "I know." "You watched me cry." Her shoulders slumped. "I know." I had imagined this conversation 1,000 times over the years. In every version I screamed. I cried. I demanded answers. Instead, I just felt tired. "You know what hurt the most?" I asked quietly. It wasn't losing Ryan. She turned toward me. It was losing my sister. For the first time since we'd stepped outside, tears filled her eyes. I miss you. I almost laughed. You miss me. Every day. You had 5 years to call. I couldn't. You wouldn't. They're different. No, Lily. They're not. She looked away. I thought he'd make me happy. The words hung between us. He promised everything. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. Promised? Past tense. What happened? She hesitated, then shook her head. I can't. Before I could press further, the back gate creaked open. Both of us turned. A man stepped into the yard. He looked to be in his late 30s. Tall, wearing a dark jacket despite the warm evening. He wasn't smiling. Lily. She froze. You weren't answering your phone. I told you not to come here. My pulse quickened. Who is he? She glanced nervously toward the house. My family is inside. I don't care. His voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that usually comes before a storm. I need my money. Money? Lily swallowed hard. I said I get it. You've been saying that for weeks. I stepped closer. I think you should leave. He looked at me for the first time. And you are her sister. He smirked. The famous sister. Lily's face fell. Please don't. He ignored her. So you're Emma. Something about the way he said my name made chills crawl up my arms. You have no idea what she's been doing, do you? Liam, Lily snapped. Stop. He laughed. Why? They deserve the truth. What truth? I asked. Lily looked like she might collapse. There is no truth. Oh, there's plenty. He reached into his jacket pocket. My heart skipped. Instead of a weapon, he pulled out a thick envelope. He tossed it onto the patio table. Photographs spilled everywhere. Some showed expensive vacations, designer shopping bags, luxury hotel rooms. Others showed Ryan, with another woman. Not Lily. Someone else entirely. I looked at Lily. She stared at the ground. He cheated on you? I whispered. Her silence answered me. The man crossed his arms. Cheated. He chuckled. Lady, that's just the beginning. What are you talking about? He looked straight at me. Ryan left your marriage for Lily. He paused. Then he left Lily for someone even richer. The words hit like a freight train. Lily finally looked up. Her mascara had started running. I begged him to stay. My mind couldn't process what I was hearing. The man continued. And when he cleaned out their joint accounts, he pointed at Lily. He disappeared with almost everything. I stared at my sister. You lost everything? She whispered one word. Yes. For the first time in 5 years, I realized something shocking. The woman I'd spent years believing had stolen my happy ending had been living inside a nightmare of her own. But before I could say anything else, the man smiled coldly. Oh, don't feel sorry for her yet. He pointed toward the envelope. You're still missing the biggest secret. I looked down. Tucked beneath the photographs was a folded legal document with my name written across the front. My name, not Lily's, mine. What would you do if someone who betrayed you suddenly became the one asking for help? And do you think Lily deserves sympathy after everything she did? Share your thoughts in the comments and let me know where you're watching from. I read as many comments as I can. My hands trembled as I picked up the folded document. My name was typed neatly across the front. Emma Carter. For a second, the world around me faded. The sounds from inside the house disappeared. The crickets stopped chirping. Even the cool evening breeze seemed to vanish. All I could hear was my own heartbeat. Open it, the man said. Lily stepped forward, so quickly she nearly tripped over the patio chair. No, her voice cracked with panic. Please, Emma, don't. I looked at her. 5 years ago, she hadn't begged me for anything. She hadn't begged for forgiveness. She hadn't begged me to understand. She hadn't begged me not to leave. Now she looked like someone standing at the edge of a cliff. Slowly, I unfolded the papers. The first page was from a law office. The second page was a financial agreement. The third page made my knees weak. It was a copy of an insurance policy. Ryan's name was listed as the policyholder. Lily's name appeared as the beneficiary. Then, underneath that, my name. I frowned. I don't understand. The man folded his arms. You will. I flipped another page. There it was. A loan agreement. Nearly $400,000. My signature appeared at the bottom. Except, it wasn't my signature. It looked almost identical. Almost. Someone had forged it. What is this? I whispered. Lily burst into tears. I never wanted this. I looked up. What did you do? I didn't forge anything. Then why is my name on this? Before she could answer, the man spoke again. Because Ryan couldn't qualify for the loan after his business failed. I felt sick. So he used you. The word landed like a brick. He told Lily that if she convinced you to co-sign, everything would be fine. I never signed anything. We know. I stared at the fake signature again. Every loop. Every letter. Someone had spent time practicing my handwriting. The realization made my skin crawl. Someone hadn't just stolen my husband. Someone had stolen my identity. Lily covered her face. When I found out, it was already too late. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You knew. She nodded slowly. I found the paperwork months later. And you didn't tell me? I was scared. I laughed. Not because anything was funny. Because sometimes pain becomes so overwhelming that laughter is the only thing left. You were scared. She nodded again. He said if I told anyone. Her voice disappeared. What? He said we'd both go to prison. The man sighed heavily. Ryan lied to her. I looked at him. And who exactly are you? He extended his hand. My name is Liam Brooks. I didn't ask your name. I know. He lowered his hand. I'm the private investigator hired by the bank. That caught me completely off guard. The bank. He nodded. They knew something about the paperwork wasn't right. So why come here? Because Ryan disappeared. My stomach tightened. What do you mean disappeared? He vanished 6 months ago. Lily quietly added, he emptied our accounts, sold the house while I was visiting a friend, and disappeared before I even got home. I blinked. He sold your house? She nodded. I came back to an empty living room. The image hit me harder than I expected. 5 years earlier, I had walked into an empty marriage. Now Lily had walked into an empty house. Different pain. Same loneliness. That didn't erase what she'd done. But for the first time, I understood something. Pain doesn't always care whether someone deserves it. Liam continued. We've been trying to locate Ryan ever since. Why involve me now? Because your forged signature makes you one of the victims. Victim? I hadn't thought of myself that way in years. I'd spent so much time defining myself as the woman whose husband ran away with her sister. I'd forgotten I was also someone who had been lied to, manipulated, used. My father suddenly opened the back door. There you all are. He looked from me, to Lily, to Liam, then to the papers spread across the patio table. His face turned pale. What's going on? Nobody answered immediately. Finally, I handed him the insurance policy. He adjusted his glasses. The longer he read, the whiter his face became. He looked directly at Lily. You knew about this? She nodded through tears. I found out after Ryan disappeared. And you kept this from Emma? I was ashamed. Dad closed his eyes. The disappointment on his face was almost unbearable to watch. Not angry, just heartbroken. Mom stepped outside moments later. The instant she saw Lily crying, she rushed over. Oh, sweetheart. I waited for it. I waited for my mother to comfort Lily the way she always had. To excuse her. To defend her. Instead, she stopped halfway. Then she turned toward me. Tears filled her eyes. I'm sorry. I frowned. For what? For failing you. The words caught me completely off guard. She took another step. I spent years asking you to forgive everyone else. Her voice shook. I never asked how much it was costing you. I didn't know what to say. She reached for my hand. I should have protected you. For years, those were the words I'd secretly wished to hear. Not because they erased the past, but because they acknowledged it. My father cleared his throat. We need to call the police. Liam nodded. They're already involved. Lily suddenly grabbed my arm. Emma. I looked at her. If they ask questions. She swallowed hard. I'll tell them everything. Everything. She nodded. I won't hide anymore. I searched her face. For once, there was no arrogance, no competition, no manipulation. Only regret. Real regret. Then Liam's phone rang. He answered quickly. His expression changed almost instantly. What? He turned away from us, listening carefully. When he finally hung up, he looked directly at me. They found Ryan. Nobody moved. Lily looked like she might faint. Where? Liam took a slow breath. He wasn't hiding. What do you mean? He got married. Silence. 3 months ago. My jaw dropped. To who? Liam looked down at the report in his hand before meeting my eyes again. You won't believe this. He paused. The woman he married works with you. For a moment, I couldn't even process what Liam had said. The woman he married works with you. My mind went completely blank. No, that was all I could say. No. Liam gave a slow nod. I'm afraid it's true. I searched his face, hoping this was some terrible misunderstanding. It has to be someone else. I thought so too, he replied. But we confirmed it this afternoon. My stomach twisted. Who? He hesitated. Then he quietly said, Jessica. I felt like the ground disappeared beneath my feet. Jessica Morgan. She had worked in the accounting department at my company for almost 2 years. She wasn't my closest friend, but we'd had lunch together more than once. She always smiled when she saw me. She remembered my birthday. Just last month she'd complimented my new haircut. And all that time, she had married my ex-husband, without ever telling me. I sank into one of the patio chairs. This can't be real. Liam handed me another photograph. There they were, Ryan and Jessica, standing on a beach, wedding clothes, matching smiles, a date stamped in the corner. 3 months earlier. The picture hurt. Not because I wanted Ryan back. I didn't. That part of my heart had healed years ago. What hurt was realizing he'd built another life on another lie. Again, my mother gently placed a hand on my shoulder. Emma. I looked up at her. I'm okay. And to my own surprise, I meant it. 5 years ago, that photograph would have destroyed me. Today, it simply confirmed something I'd already learned. Ryan wasn't searching for love. He was searching for his next opportunity. Liam spoke again. The investigation also found that Jessica didn't know about the forged documents. So she's another victim. Yes. I let out a slow breath. The cycle hadn't stopped with me. Or Lily. It had simply continued. The only difference was that now there was proof. The police arrived about 20 minutes later. 2 detectives introduced themselves and carefully collected every document from the patio table. They asked all of us questions. When they reached Lily, she surprised everyone. She didn't hold anything back. She admitted that Ryan had shown her paperwork. She admitted she had ignored warning signs. She admitted she'd stayed silent after discovering my forged signature. Then she looked directly at me. I thought protecting him would protect me. A tear rolled down her cheek. I was wrong. The detective nodded. Thank you for being honest. Honest. It was probably the first time in years that anyone had used that word to describe my sister. After the detectives left, the house felt strangely quiet. My father poured himself a cup of coffee, even though it was nearly midnight. Mom sat beside him, holding his hand. No one knew what to say. Finally, Lily stood. I should go. She picked up her purse. Nobody stopped her. She walked toward the front door before suddenly turning around. Emma. Yes. I don't expect forgiveness. I stayed silent. I just wanted you to know. She wiped another tear from her face. Losing you was the biggest mistake I ever made. Then she walked out the door. This time, she walked away alone. The irony wasn't lost on me. 5 years earlier, she'd left with my husband. Tonight, she left with nothing except the weight of her own choices. The following weeks were filled with interviews, paperwork, and phone calls. The bank officially cleared my name after handwriting experts confirmed the signature had been forged. The fraudulent loan was removed from my record. Ryan became the subject of multiple criminal investigations involving fraud, identity theft, and financial deception. Several months later, he was arrested in another state while attempting to secure yet another loan using false information. When I heard the news, I expected to feel victorious. Instead, I felt peaceful. Justice and revenge are not the same thing. Revenge keeps your eyes locked on the person who hurt you. Justice allows you to keep walking forward. Jessica contacted me shortly after Ryan's arrest. She asked if we could meet. At first, I wasn't sure, but something inside me said yes. We met at a small coffee shop. She looked exhausted. "I'm so sorry," she said before she even sat down. "You didn't know." She shook her head. "He told me you were bitter." I smiled sadly. "I'm sure he did. He said your marriage ended because you stopped loving him." I couldn't help but laugh. The old me would have spent hours defending myself. The new me simply said, "Ryan was very good at telling stories." Jessica nodded. "I've learned that." We talked for almost 2 hours. By the end of the conversation, I realized something unexpected. Neither of us had been enemies. We had simply believed the same liar. A year passed. Life slowly settled into a new rhythm. I continued therapy. Not because I was broken, because I wanted to stay healthy. I started volunteering at a local community center, mentoring young women who were struggling with confidence and unhealthy relationships. Every time one of them said, "Maybe if I were prettier," or "maybe if I had tried harder," I gently stopped them. No, the right people don't ask you to compete for love. Love isn't a contest. It's a choice made every single day. My relationship with my parents also changed. Not overnight. Trust doesn't grow back that quickly. But little by little, they earned another chance. Mom stopped asking me to keep the peace. Dad started calling just to check in instead of pretending difficult conversations didn't exist. As for Lily, we didn't suddenly become best friends. Some wounds leave scars, and scars deserve respect. She wrote me letters every few months. She never asked for anything. She never pressured me to respond. She simply apologized, again and again. Sometimes healing isn't about returning to what once existed. Sometimes it's about building something completely different. 2 years after that unforgettable family dinner, I received one final letter from Lily. Inside was a photograph of us as little girls sitting beneath the old oak tree in our parents' backyard. On the back, she'd written, "I spent my whole life trying to take what belonged to someone else because I never believed I was enough on my own. I'm finally learning that becoming someone else cost me the chance to become myself." I cried when I read those words, not because the pain disappeared, but because I finally understood something. Forgiveness isn't pretending the past never happened. Forgiveness is refusing to let the past control the rest of your life. Today, I'm 35 years old. I'm no longer the woman who measures her worth by who chose her. I measure it by who I chose to become. Strong, kind, honest, peaceful. If someone asked me whether I'd go back and change what happened 5 years ago, my answer might surprise them. No, because losing my husband forced me to find myself. And the woman I found was far stronger than the one who had been betrayed. Family can break your heart. Love can disappoint you. Trust can be shattered. But your future doesn't belong to the people who hurt you. It belongs to the person who decides to keep moving forward anyway. If you're listening to my story while carrying your own heartbreak, let me leave you with this. Never let someone else's betrayal become the measure of your value. Their choices reveal their character. Your response reveals yours. Have you ever experienced betrayal by someone you trusted? Did you choose forgiveness, distance, or something in between? Share your story in the comments, and don't forget to tell me where you're watching from. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today.